Opening day was awesome unless you were a reliever. We'll break it all down up next on a Kokomo Friday.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in Boca. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aaron Nola. Giolito, Castillo, Yoshida, Mosuzuka.
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on March 28th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, opening day is in the books. It's time to overreact. We had some bullpen madness. We'll talk about all of it. Had some young hitters with huge games here and much more. There's only one way to start the season, guys.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Oh my goodness gracious, players of the night. And for those who might be watching or listening for the first time to one of our in-season podcasts, this will pretty much be the way we start things. And we'll start with players of the night. If you hear an awesome call somewhere, an announcer on TV or radio, tweet it at me, email it to me, and I'll try to work it into our rotation of player of the night calls here.
There was a great home run call on Kyle Manzardo's home run today.
I'm not sure I heard
if you caught that one.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
I did not.
Yeah, it was an adventure. It was an adventure. Like the announcer changed his mind like 3 times within the call whether it was going to be a home run.
Well, the ESPN broadcast on Anthony Volpe's home run was, and there's a pop fly to right.
I heard that,
and it's gone. I guess it was actually hit further than Austin Wells' home run, though.
That is true. All right, Scott, lead us off. Your player of the night.
Well, it's actually not Kyle Manzardo because that's yours, Frank, but it's probably the player of the day, I would say, MacKenzie Gore.
That
certainly had
breadstick.
Certainly had the pitching performance of the day. Struck out 13 over 6 innings against a great Phillies lineup, 20 swinging strikes on 93 pitches, including 8 on the slider. Well distributed the whiffs were, but 8 on the slider, that was the most of any pitch. And it was a very different slider than we've seen MacKenzie Gore throw in the past. It was down almost 5 miles per hour. So it was, kind of a slower, bigger breaking slider. And he threw it you were telling me, Chris, he threw it exclusively to lefties. He didn't throw it to righties. And lefties, even though he's a left-hander, have been part of responsible for part of Gore's inconsistencies over the years. He hasn't dominated left-handers like you'd expect him to.
You're being extremely kind. He gets demolished by lefties. His career OPS against lefties is like 800, I think, which is hard to believe because he's a big 816 career OPS versus left-handed batters. That's really, really bad.
And that wasn't the only arsenal change for Gore in this one. The Nationals had talked about him developing a cutter. He threw only 6 of them, but he got 3 whiffs on those 6. And that seemed to be kind of the alternative to the slider that he used against right-handers. So he seems to have a more diverse arsenal that's going to help him navigate a lineup better. The biggest thing he did, though, probably was throw 71% of his pitches for strikes. And during the stretches MacKenzie Gore dominated last year, which was start of the season, end of the season, threw a lot more strikes. His stuff is good enough that as long as he does that, I think he's going to be in good shape. And he's clearly off to a nice start here. And hopefully it continues.
Yeah, the biggest thing for MacKenzie Gore throughout his career has been a lack of consistency. So at this point, I think if he's maturing as a pitcher and, he's takes that next step as a breakout, that's how it will come. It will be throwing strikes and being more consistent on a start-to-start basis and, not walking as many. And, if it involves implementing new pitches, like you pointed out, Scott, a new slider, throwing some more cutters in there, then I think we could potentially get the breakout season here from Gore. There's no doubt that he has the stuff. It's just, can he do it consistently? That will be the question here. But it was an awesome start, no doubt.
It's worth noting, his slider last year was basically a cutter. He averaged 91 miles an hour with his slider last year. So I think this move is kind of splitting that up into two different pitches, right? Like a true cutter that actually, I think, more or less had a similar movement profile to the one he threw last year, and then a loopier two-plane breaking slider, which in theory from a lefty should help him avoid barrels and miss bats against lefties more consistently. And yeah, I think this is a super, super encouraging start for MacKenzie Gore. His command always comes and goes. He has like Clayton Kershaw's delivery. I don't know if that's like oversimplifying, but he has a very similar delivery to Clayton Kershaw, and it's a really difficult delivery to duplicate. And so I think that's been part of the problem. He just has trouble repeating his mechanics, but if he can, the stuff we saw today from MacKenzie Gore was super, super impressive.
All right, Chris, let's go right back to you for your player of the day or night, whenever he played.
Yeah, I think Torkelson was a night game. No, that was like an afternoon game. But yeah, Spencer Torkelson, awesome performance in his very first game of the season. Homered off of Blake Snell, right? I think I think
it was Alex Vesia.
I mean, that's a tough pitcher too, but he homered off of a good pitcher and walked 4 times, which is really impressive for a guy who's always had some plate discipline issues, has always been a little chase heavy. It's one game after a very good spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think Spencer Torkelson is worth adding in probably categories leagues here. He's 43% rostered as of tonight. So I don't know how many categories leagues he's available in. There's probably some, and I would be adding him. I don't think in head-to-head points leagues yet, unless you're just really bad at first base. But it was a very, very promising first showing for Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah. I mean, look, if he continues to walk a lot, it'll be a great points league profile. And it's worth pointing out, because I think there's this perception that Torkelson has always been useless in fantasy. He was drafted among the top 12 first basemen just a year ago.
Oh, he was awesome in
off
2023.
A good 2023 season. Yeah. Mostly because of the power. So, depends how deep the league is. We had 3 widely available first basemen who we regard as having upside, have monster performances here on opening day. And somebody asked me if I should drop Rhys Hoskins for one of them. I don't know that I really want to do that, because I like Rhys Hoskins a lot too. And I don't know that I should change. If I like all the players, I don't know that I should change my priors based on one day. But
I don't think you have to say, we're talking about Tyler Soderstrom, Spencer Torkelson, and Kyle Manzardo, who all had a home run. Soderstrom had 2. Manzardo had a double and a triple as well.
He finished a single short of the cycle.
Which is, that's frustrating. But I would say you don't need to suddenly think all 3 of those guys are better than Rhys Hoskins. What you need to think is, this might be my only chance to add any of those guys.
No, I get that, but I still think it's too, like, what if Rhys Hoskins homers twice tomorrow? That wouldn't be surprising. Like, I have a lot of confidence in Rhys Hoskins. He has had a lot more success in the majors than any of these guys. And I'm not ready to make that switch. It's certainly conceivable that any one of them could be better than Rhys Hoskins this season.
Yeah. And I think with a lot of the early season content, at least for today, I don't think we're telling anyone to drop players of note on this day. But if you have an open roster spot, or if, an injured player that you're throwing on the IL, or it's just a player that didn't play on opening day, or you don't know how much they're going to play in general, like, you could drop that here. Fine.
You drafted Zebby Matthews and didn't know what to do with them. Now you have somebody you can drop them for.
Yeah. So I guess let's just talk about all three of these players right now, because Kyle Manzardo finished a single short of the cycle, 3 for 4, a walk, a double, a triple, a home run, 4 RBI in the lineup against a lefty. Cole Reagan's here. So that was really, really encouraging for Manzardo. The problem for him in fantasy, while he is a first baseman, he's util only for now on CBS. So hopefully he gains first base eligibility. He was the DH in this game. He did not play first base. The other big game, Tyler Soderstrom, 2 for 3 with a double dong here. Both home runs over 108 mile per hour exit velocity. One of them came off of Logan Gilbert. And the power metrics are legit. I mean, last year they were at least, and he hits the ball hard. He barrels it up. Seems like he has an everyday opportunity here with the Athletics in, I think, what could be a pretty sneaky lineup here. So, Scott, how would you rank the three just based on all three having great first games? But Soderstrom, Kyle Manzardo, and Spencer Torkelson.
I'm going to go. I'm tempted to put Manzardo last just because he's not eligible at first base, and you'll have to factor that into your thinking with your own ranking, obviously, whether you can actually use Manzardo at this point. But if I'm just going how much I trust them on a skill level, I think I am going to, well, not just skill level, but skill and playing time, factoring it all in. I'm going to go Torkelson 1, Manzardo 2, Soderstrom 3. It's virtually a tie. So if you disagree with me, fine. I'm not going to really argue with you about it. I will point out that you mentioned the home run for Manzardo came off a lefty, Frank, and it did. All three of his hits came off lefties. All three of his hits came off 3 different lefties.
Wow.
And so I think that's a pretty strong indicator that Manzardo is going to be able to handle an everyday role. I mean, just the fact he was in the lineup against a left-hander on opening day, I think is encouraging. So that's one of the reasons why I give him the edge over Soderstrom. The other one being that Soderstrom, I think, has more pronounced strikeout issues.
I actually might put Soderstrom at the top of this group.
I'm not going to argue with you, Chris.
Just on the off chance that he might get catcher eligibility.
Okay. Yeah, that's
like
a good
that's
point.
how slim I think the margins between these three are. They all have plus power. There's some strikeout concerns for all three of them. Soderstrom might get catcher eligibility at some point, and Manzardo is DH only right now. So, like, literally, that might be all that separates them for me.
All right, I do want to give a shout out to another young player who had a huge game here on opening day, and that's Wilyer Abreu of the Red Sox. 3 for 3 with a double dong, 4 RBI, including a 3-run go-ahead home run in the 9th inning off of Luke Jackson. Not sure that experiment is going to last very long. 3 batted balls over 108 miles per hour here.
He only had 12 all last season.
Yeah, and what's even crazier about it, he missed a lot of spring training with an illness that caused him to lose weight. I don't know if it's the same thing as Mookie Betts, but it was kind of a similar situation where they said he was down like 10, 15 pounds or whatever, and he missed a large majority of spring. They didn't know if he was going to be on the opening day roster. They didn't know if he would be ready, and he's here, and he has a great game. Last year, didn't put up huge numbers, but he hit the ball hard. It was a good barrel rate. I don't think he's going to play against lefties, so there's a drawback there. But, Chris, what do you think about Wilyer Abreu? He's 63% rostered, so anything more than that, we're talking about points league territory. I just don't know if he's going to play enough.
He already might have gone up. When I checked, it was 69% rostered. Wow. Yeah, I think he's probably not really a points league guy. So it's any categories league, and there might not be many of them where he isn't already rostered, but if he is, I'm fine taking that chance. Sure. I think I'd rather have Lars Nootbaar, who's only 43% rostered, and
lead off Lars, baby. Lead off Lars.
Leading off for the Cardinals. He homered today.
Towering shot. Love to see it.
Yeah, I think Wilyer Abreu's fine, and maybe there's room for more than fine there.
I think there is. I wish he played in a different park. He plays in one of the worst home run parks for a left-handed hitter, and I wish he didn't have the platoon concern. But at the very least, I think he showed with this start that he's not going to cede that job to Roman Anthony easily, and good for him. I will also note, because we don't have the time with all the opening day reactions to get to like a week 2 preview, week 2 sleeper hitters, sleeper pitchers And obviously it only applies to those who treated opening weekend as week one. But Wilyer Abreu is scheduled to face, the Red Sox are scheduled to face just one left-hander next week, and they have the fourth best hitter matchups. So if you are looking for a streamer hitter, he would make for a good one. So would Soderstrom, by the way, because half of the A's games next week are at Colorado.
Wilyer Abreu on Yahoo, by the way, is only 15% rostered. So if you play over there, lots of daily lineup head-to-head categories leagues where you can just put him in whenever he's playing on a daily basis. I think Wilyer Abreu has more value in a format like that. I think we would all take Lars Nootbaar over Abreu, though, right?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
I think in every format, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's take our first break. Just a quick few things to promote here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. That's youtube.com/fantasy baseball today. If you listen to the audio podcast and you enjoy the show, please feel free to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And as Scott just mentioned, if you're looking for week 2 sleeper hitters and pitchers for the upcoming week here on Monday, go check out Scott's articles on the site, cbssports.com/fantasy/baseball. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this quick commercial break. Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Before we get into the bullpen madness that was, I've got to mention Tyler O'Neill. This stuff is crazy, man. He has homered on 6 straight opening days.
Unbelievable.
Which, I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. And it was his Orioles debut, too. It was a great one. 3 for 3 with a homer, 2 walks, 3 runs, and 3 RBI.
Ho-hum.
Let's just highlight that entire Orioles team here because no Gunnar Henderson, no problem. They clobbered the Blue Jays. They put up 12 runs on 14 hits, including 6 homers. One of them for Tyler O'Neill. Adley Rutschman, huge game, 2 home runs in this one. He went 3 for 5. Cedric Mullins, 3 for 5, 2 homers, 5 RBI. He also attempted a steal, but he got caught stealing, but obviously a great game here. And it's Jordan Westburg breakout season, baby. 2 for 4 with a walk and his first home run. Any analysis here? Big game from the Orioles?
Just love seeing Adley Rutschman get off to a good start. He was, an MVP caliber player before the hand injury last year, and he never blamed it, but the drop off in production from July 1st on was pretty stark, and I think he was a target for me all draft season, and I'm expecting a huge season from Adley Rutschman. He
hit only 3 home runs in the second half last year. Yeah. Then he hit 3 this spring. Then he hit 2 on opening day. So I think Adley Rutschman is. We can put that bad second half behind him. Meanwhile, Cedric Mullins, final 87 games last year, he hit 277 with 12 of his 18 home runs and had an 834 OPS. So he was miserable at the start of last season. Picked things up obviously as the year went along, and looks like hopefully he's going to avoid the slow start. Do we want to address now the pitcher who a lot of this damage happened against, Jose Barrios?
I'll just go ahead and say, you can mention. I don't want to overreact. Yeah. I think Jose Barrios is fringe enough coming into the season that if you wanted to drop him based on this, I think it's fine. I think he'll be fine.
It would have to be forward. A shallow league.
But yeah.
It would have to be a shallow. He's probably still Jose Barrios. The pitch velocity, shape, selection was all normal. He got 13 whiffs on 90 pitches, which is better than he does usually. He had a couple starts last year where he gave up 3 home runs. I think it's just the way a Jose Barrios season goes, and he happened to get one of the bad ones out of the way.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I had him starting in a few roto leagues, unfortunately, some deeper leagues where not great, but this is part of the Jose Barrios experience, unfortunately. Let's get into...
Can I point out one thing that's not on the rundown before we get into the bullpens and the pitchers and all this stuff, because we're not going to talk about it, but I think it is interesting. Nolan Arenado, homered today off Griffin Jacks. That's a good pitcher. 2 of his swings were at least 75 miles per hour. And that was something that was noted by, Saris in spring training, that his bat speed was up in the very limited sample size. He only had 11% of his swings last season were at least 75 miles per hour. 2 of his 4 today, or 2 of his 4 batted balls today, I guess, were. So it's not guarantee of anything, but it's a glimmer of hope for Nolan Arenado. All right, move on.
Let's go. Build that value, get traded to a contender, and let's see what happens. Let's get into the bullpen madness, because there was a lot, and it was just a stream of one thing after another, one team after another, and just like, what is happening? It
The
was
6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern hour was real fun for bullpens.
It was, and I was live with Nick Pollock. We were on playback watching all the opening day games. We were just kind of jumping around, and every game we went to got blown. Like, we just would jump to another game and it would get blown, and we were just like, who the heck is Ian Jabo? Well, let's talk about that. Start with the Reds bullpen. It's Terry Francona. Like, what are we doing, bud? 1-run game. We get Scott Barlow in the 6th. He struck out 2. Emilio Pagan in the 7th. He struck out 2. Tony Santillan in the 8th. He struck out 2. So we're thinking, all right, who do we get in the 9th? It's Taylor Rogers. Is it Graham Ashcraft? It's neither. It's Ian Jabo, spelled Gibaut.
You don't need to know how it's spelled.
Who gives up 4 runs on a walk and 3 hits, including a homer. He takes the blown save and the loss. Jabo, it's especially baffling. He was a non-roster invitee, and he was one of the last players to make the team. And after the game, Terry Francona said roles were not planned before the game. He also said that in hindsight, he should have flipped Emilio Pagan and Jabo. So
we're all trying to find the guy who did this.
And Pagan in the 9th inning. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what happens next, but I'm pretty sure it's not Ian Jabo.
No, it's not. It's not. I don't think so. And if I could spoil one of the other ones, the Luke Jackson experience, him as the Rangers closer, also ended disastrously. So you've got Terry Francona, you got Bruce Bochy, and I'm just saying, I'm just wondering, like, when are these old school fossilized managers going to learn that you save your best reliever for the 9th inning? Always. You never depart from that, because that's obviously the way to go about stringing relievers together to secure a win. I'm obviously saying that tongue in cheek because people have been arguing for just the opposite for these old school managers, but I don't think this is what they meant. I don't think the idea of using your best relievers in the highest leverage situation meant you could just throw any old guy out there in the 9th and just hope your way to a victory. Like, bad relievers make for bad closers. And so I hope these 2 Hall of Fame managers learned a very valuable lesson here on opening day.
I will say it's a little concerning that Terry Francona's lesson from all this was, I should have used Emilio Pagan as my closer, because he has been a closer in the past. He's not very good. He is a pretty extreme fly ball pitcher. That's not going to work either. But I guess if you have to speculate on the next one, I would rank it Pagan and then Santillan, who was good in the setup role.
Here's the thing.
But yeah, this still seems like a stay away for me.
So let me look up Santillan. Let me check my notes so I can make sure I'm saying this right. Okay, I didn't make a note on Santillan, apparently. It must have been a different reliever I'm thinking of. We already know Terry Francona thinks Tony Santillan is his best reliever.
Mm-hmm.
He's said that. And so I think in the long run, if he believes Santillan is his best reliever, unless somebody else emerges as a better reliever in the meantime, in the long run, I think the majority of the save chances are going to Santillan, because that's generally what happens.
All right, well, let's move over to the Phillies, because Jordan Romano entered in the 8th inning with a 2-run lead, facing 8-9-1 in the Nationals lineup. He gave up 2 runs on a hit by pitch, a walk, and a hit. Jose Alvarado pitched in the 9th inning with the game tied, facing 5, 6, and 7 in the lineup. He struck out 2 in a perfect inning. And it seems like the usage here is they were saving Jose Alvarado for the save opportunity.
Well, okay, now I do have some details I can offer on this one. So Romano pitched the 8th. Yes. He faced
struggled.
It wasn't a clean inning. He gave up 2 runs, a hit, and a walk. He would 8, 9, and 1 were due up. But here's the thing. Okay, if they think Romano's the high leverage guy, presumably they'd want to save him for the top of the lineup. This was the Nationals' top of the lineup. It went lefty, 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 switch hitter, lefty. A whole string of lefties with 1 switch hitter in there. First 5 hitters. So obviously they were going to use Alvarado in that situation. And
that's a fair point, yeah.
Unless they had a true locked in closer. So I think that's the main thing that happened here. Now, Romano has to do better with the opportunities he's given to emerge as the leading saves guy that we think he's going to be. And I still think he's going to be. But if nothing else, we know he doesn't have a stranglehold on that role. And Rob Thompson's gonna play matchups, at least to some degree.
I will point out that there were at least 2 occasions in the spring where they went with this exact order: Kerkering, Romano, Alvarado. That doesn't necessarily mean much because it's spring training, but it happened multiple times. Now it happens in the first game. I think that's a good point about the string of lefties that the Nationals have at the top of their lineup. I hadn't considered that. Is Wood a switch hitter?
He's a lefty.
He's just a lefty?
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess I'm thinking of Josh. So Josh Bell was the only switch hitter in that group. Weird lineup construction. Can we get Dylan Cruz up there to balance it out a little bit?
We've been saying he's going to bat second, and then they drop him to 8th on opening day.
He batted 8th. Maybe it was just because it was a tough righty, but that was dumb.
I hear what you're saying, and we've thought for years Alvarado could be a closer caliber reliever, including just last year when the path seemed wide open for him. There wasn't an alternative as good as Jordan Romano or as proven as a closer as Jordan Romano. So they never really seemed interested in making Alvarado a full-time closer then, and I'm highly doubtful it's going to happen now.
I think he'll be in the mix.
Yeah, he'll be in the mix, but I think in the long run, Romano's still the guy. If I had to guess, Romano's still the guy.
Okay. Would you be looking to add Jose Alvarado in category leagues?
I think he's perfectly fine, useful in categories leagues, regardless of whether he's the closer moving forward, which I don't think we expect.
If Edwin Uceta is worth rostering in your league, then Jose Alvarado probably is too.
I think I'd rather have Alvarado than any Reds guy at this point. At least we know Alvarado's really good. And to be clear, he looks better than ever so far I know it's only 1 game this season, but also spring training, I was watching him. His velocity's up like 2 miles per hour on his fastball. He had this ridiculous curveball that I don't think he threw today. But he was working on it in spring that had he threw 1 and it has
he struck out 20 in 9 innings this spring.
It has arm side movement. It's like a screwball basically because of the weird way he pronates his arm. That thing looks ridiculous if he can command it. And obviously Jose Alvarado is already very, very good. So he could just be very useful in all category formats if he gets 6 saves all year.
All right, we do have to move infinitely faster here. Let's talk about the Dodgers. Tanner Scott got the 8th inning with a 2-run lead, facing 7, 8, and 9 in the Tigers lineup, and he allowed a run on a triple and a sac fly. And then it was Blake Trinan who got the 9th inning, not Kirby Yates, who didn't even pitch in this game. Trinan gave up a hit and a walk, but struck out 2 for his first save. So this is frustrating. I saw people last week doing victory laps on fantasy baseball Twitter because Tanner Scott is definitely the Dodgers closer. And I don't know if that's certain here. I do have a bit of a conspiracy theory that the Dodgers, they have their little World Series celebration here. They're wearing the special jerseys and all that. maybe to honor Blake Treinen because he was so good in the World Series and part of their postseason run. But that's my conspiracy theory. I don't have any truth behind that.
It's reasonable enough. You know what's fun, though?
What's up?
Evan Phillips and Michael Kopech aren't even healthy yet.
Yep.
Why did Kirby Yates not even pitch in this game, though?
I wonder if Scott was called in the 8th just because Kerry Carpenter was coming up that inning.
But I think he came on as a pinch hitter. Like, they didn't know he was going to bat. I think he came on as a pinch hitter that inning to face him. Because there was, like, Ryan Kreidler was in the lineup. So they probably just wanted a little bit more punch in that at bat.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah, you're right. It was a pinch hitter. Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's, one of the bold predictions I scrapped was that 4 Dodgers relievers would have double-digit saves this year. Yeah. I decided not to throw that out there because Dave Roberts did verbally endorse Scott as his closer. So, okay, there's a clear leader there. I don't know. Maybe I should have stuck with that bold prediction.
Let's talk about the Royals. Lucas Erceg entered with 1 out in the 7th inning, with the Royals down 4-3 at the time to face Jose Ramirez and Lane Thomas. He retired both of them, but just kind of weird usage, I guess. Carlos Estevez pitched the 9th inning with the game tied. He struck out 1. The Royals would eventually lose in extra innings. Do you have any thoughts on the way the Royals were used here?
Probably
Fireman
Estevez is the front runner.
But that's a fireman situation for Erceg, right? Like coming in to face Jose Ramirez. That's in a late inning situation to face Jose Ramirez. It's not going to get much tougher than that. So
yeah. But while down a run, it just seems kind of. I mean, I guess you don't want the game to get away from you.
Yeah, like that. It's not closer usage, but it's fireman usage, which was what we expected, and that means he's going to get some saves, but not all of them, which is what we expected. I don't think there's much here. It's just Carlos Estevez matters.
All right, for the Pirates, Colin Holderman entered in the 8th inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up 2 runs on 2 walks and 2 hits. Boom, tie game. David Bednar gets the 9th inning with the game tied. He gave up a leadoff triple to Nick Fortes and then intentionally walked Xavier Edwards, gave up a walk-off hit to Kyle Stowers. So,
not great. I will just question the management on this one, and maybe this is overthinking it, but I believe they gave up a double to a triple. O'Neal Cruz badly misplayed a ball on a triple by
Nick Fortes,
yeah, of all people. Then they walk Xavier Edwards to try to get the force out to get a double play, but then he steals second, so first base is open, and they pitch to Kyle Stowers. I didn't get that. Like just walk him. The second run doesn't matter. It's tied, and you're on the road. I don't understand why they didn't just walk the next guy to get a force out at every base. I thought the management there was stupid, but bad. Like David Bednar looked bad all season last year, and now he blows his first save. It
wasn't a save though; it was a tie game.
Blows his first opportunity in a high leverage situation in a closer's role.
Yeah.
So
the saving grace, as we've been saying with Bednar all along, is Colin Holderman looked bad.
Yeah,
Dennis
everybody else
Santana looked bad. Like there's just no alternatives there. So Bednar probably gets a long leash, longer than 1 appearance, certainly because of that.
I mean, honestly, maybe I don't think there's a guarantee he gets the next save though.
For the Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman entered in the 8th inning with the game tied, facing 2, 3, and 4 in the Rangers lineup. He gave up a hit, but he was overall solid inning. The Red Sox took a 3-run lead in the top of the 9th. Justin Slayton came on for the save. He retired the side in order, picked it up. I still think it's Chapman's. He pitched in a high-level spot because the game was tied.
Alex Cora did exactly what he said he was going to do. He said Chapman's going to get the majority of the save opportunities, but the exact quote was, if Corey Seager leads off the 8th, he, meaning Chapman, could be used in the 8th. Guess who led off the 8th?
Yeah, that seems like Aroldis Chapman's the closer, and they just thought that was the situation to use him in.
Yeah. For the Rangers, Chris Martin entered with 2 outs in the 7th inning, runners on first and second in a tie game. He struck out Connor Wong. He also pitched a scoreless 8th. And then Luke Jackson came on for the 9th with the game tied. He gave up a 3-run homer to Wilyer Abreu. He took the loss here. I would assume Chris Martin gets the next save opportunity, but I can't say that for certain.
It sure seems like Chris Martin's a fireman, which means he'll get some save opportunities, and if everybody else is bad, maybe he gets all of them. That's kind of my read there.
Bad relievers make for bad closers. Bruce Bochy, what are you doing?
All right. Well, go ahead.
Are we done with the closers? Because if I could put a bow on it.
I have some other just like general things to get to later on, but you could say whatever.
Okay, so like, don't go crazy throwing a bunch of fab dollars at a bunch of relievers who pitched in unexpected spots. I think overall, none of today's bullpen choices reveal that much. Remember last year on opening day, Abner Uribe was the big pickup. 3 years ago, ironically enough, it was Tony Santillan got a save for the Reds on opening day, and everyone was like, "Oh, look, the Reds have a new closer." No, I think what will ultimately be is what works, and what works will be revealed in time. And a lot of that, what's revealed in time, is going to be what we expected all along. So, yeah, if you want to throw, if you're playing a deep roto league where anybody who's in line for saves gets scooped up, maybe you throw tiny bit at Justin Slayton. Maybe you throw a tiny little bit more at Jose Alvarado. But you don't go crazy because it's just one day and it's a weird day and a lot still needs to be fleshed out.
Yep.
All right, let's take our final break and we'll be back right after this.
This is what you were made for.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Teams that are off and running. We had some big stolen base totals already here on opening day. The Nationals, no surprise, they ran crazy last year. They had 3 more steals, 1 for each of Dylan Cruz, Jacob Young, and Luis Garcia Jr. The Padres ran wild. Fernando Tatis went 3 for 4 with 2 steals. Manny Machado, 2 for 3 with 2 steals as well. Xander Bogaerts, 1 for 3 with a steal. After the game, Tatis said, quote, "Last year, I was standing on one leg. You can really see how healthy I'm at right now. It's a huge part of my game and one of my favorite parts of the game. I really missed it." This could be huge.
Fernando Tatis overall #1 player, baby.
I also will note Tatis had the 2 steals. Manny Machado had 2 steals. It sure seemed like the Padres were picking on Drake Baldwin in his major league
Baldwin,
debut.
former wide receiver.
Yeah. Drake Baldwin, Braves rookie catcher, who, by the way, nearly hit a home run to straightaway center in his debut. It was one of those, did the center fielder Jackson Merrill rob it or didn't he kind of situations, because he leaped right at the wall. Would it have hit off the top of the wall or sailed over? Hard to tell, but that was unfortunate for Mr. Drake Baldwin.
The Pirates also ran wild. They had 6 steals as a team. Brian Hayes had 2. O'Neal Cruz had a steal. Brian Reynolds had 1. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa had a steal, and so did Tommy Pham. So I don't know.
Alcantara had 0 interest in holding runners in this game. It just like I don't think all of them were off of him, but at least a couple were. And yeah, he was not even. I'm not sure he even threw over to first in this game. He was just focused on pitching.
Let's talk about Sandy Alcantara's return here.
Sandy? Tell me about it, Stud.
That's right. Yeah.
He was cruising until the 5th inning, and it felt like they left him in too long. And I kind of get what they wanted to do. Like, how many win opportunities are you really going to have, Sandy Alcantara? So he had a 1-0 lead, and he has to get through the 5th inning. So they left him out there. And then it all just kind of spiraled in that final inning. He struck out the first 2, gave up a single, steal, walk, double steal, walk, and a 2-run single. And they pulled him after that. So the final line doesn't look great, but before that, 16 whiffs on 91 pitches. Chris, he looked pretty awesome.
Yeah, he looked great. Honestly, if there's a big takeaway from today, there's no short leash on Sandy Alcantara, and there might just not be a leash. Like, they let him throw 91 pitches in his first start of the season. He was very efficient before the fifth inning. I think it was like a 25 or 27 pitch inning, something like that. But yeah, I thought his stuff looked awesome. It looked like he didn't miss a beat. The command wasn't great, but that's not so concerning because we know that's a strength for him, and that'll get better, I think, as he gets more reps. But yeah, he certainly didn't. I will say this. I don't know how much upside there's going to be. I think the downside concerns about Sandy Alcantara are like already off the board based on spring, how he looked in spring and the length that they gave him in this start.
All right, let's talk about a waiver wire pitcher. There's only one that really stood out to me from opening day, and it's Sean Burke of the White Sox, who pitched really well. 6 shutout innings, 3 hits, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. He only had 8 whiffs on 73 pitches, but the 0 walks is huge for him because he had big control issues in the minors, only allowed 4 hard hits in this game. He led with the slider. It was his most used pitch. He's 25 years old, lots of strikeouts, but again, lots of walks in the minors. 34% rostered. Scott, how interested are you in a Sean Burke after this opening day start?
I've had trouble getting a handle on Sean Burke. And so I've mostly just ignored him because he pitches for the White Sox anyway. And, you know, a lot of the stuff you see is uninspiring, but then there are these flashes of brilliance sometimes. And it's like, okay, maybe there's something here. He's pretty low priority for me, I would say, because at the end of the day, he still pitches for what's probably the worst team in baseball. And that's the last hurdle to clear. You know, there are a number of hurdles leading up to that. And I think a number of interesting pitchers that are still fairly available, including AJ Smith-Shawver, just to pull one off the top of my head.
Okay, so yeah, you would take Smith-Shawver over Burke. How about Richard Fitz or Sean Burke?
I would take Fitz still. That might change if Fitz start goes poorly. That's kind of that margin for error that exists there. But as of now, Richard Fitz.
All right, there were a few deep league bats that had good games here on opening day. Miguel Vargas, 2 for 4 with a double, 2 RBI, hit the double off of Yusei Kikuchi. This comes after a nice spring for him, and he led off in this game against a lefty. He's 8% rostered on CBS, has third base and outfield eligibility. And Jorge Polanco, 3 for 3 with a home run. He's only 10% rostered. Underwent knee surgery to repair the patellar tendon in his left knee. Maybe he's just finally healthy again. Like, he used to be a pretty productive player, Jorge Polanco. Chris, if we're talking, 15-team roto leagues or deeper, do you have any interest in either Miguel Vargas or Jorge Polanco?
You probably have some pretty bad players on your 15-team leagues. So yeah, I think
I saw both of them available in 15-teamers that I'm in. So
yeah, Vargas leading off, that's moderately interesting. He's put up big minor league numbers throughout his career, and it just hasn't come together when he's gotten the chance, but maybe there's some post-type sleeper potential there. And Polanco, he's hitting 6th, so not a bad lineup spot, and it wouldn't take much to move him up if he's the guy he used to be. He wasn't last season, but maybe he just wasn't healthy, like you said.
I did notice this spring Jorge Polanco hardly struck out at all. 12.5% strikeout rate after 29.3 last year, which was out of character for him to strike out that much. So my hopes were raised just by him making more contact this spring. And then he has an opening day performance like this that, makes it look even more interesting. It'd have to be a pretty deep league for me to act on it. But it's noteworthy at the very least. I'm still pretty skeptical of Miguel Vargas. I'm more skeptical of Vargas than Polanco.
Agreed.
His double today had an expected batting average of 150. His hardest hit ball was less than 95 miles per hour. It's a lot of the same issues there for Vargas. And even though he put up a good batting average this spring, I was seeing a lot of the same things then too.
All right, let's quickly get through some news and notes, and then we'll get back into recapping opening day. And Gunnar Henderson will begin a rehab assignment Friday. He's been out since late February due to that right intercostal strain. Tanner Bybee was scratched from his start due to food poisoning. Ben Lively started in his place.
Tanner Bybee wants everyone to know it's not Chipotle's fault. People were blaming it on Chipotle, and he said it happened before he had his pregame Chipotle meal. So just want to put that out there.
He still ate the pregame Chipotle meal with that going on?
I don't think he got to.
Oh, okay.
I think he said he didn't get to the pregame Chipotle.
Okay.
But
that's fine.
He eats Chipotle before every game. So,
okay. Yeah.
For every game.
It feels risky.
Yeah.
Maybe it's what he needs to feel alive.
I don't know about that one.
Chipotle's delicious. I'm not taking shots.
Great,
Love
but
Chipotle.
It's like the episode of The Office where Michael Scott eats, fettuccine Alfredo before he runs a marathon.
Do you think he eats a burrito?
It's got to just be a bowl. You can't take the giant burrito.
The bowls are very popular, but I love a tortilla. I love everything wrapped up in a tortilla.
Yeah. No, the burritos are great, but they
sit pretty heavy, like a brick in your stomach.
Zach Neto, who is still rehabbing from off-season shoulder surgery, isn't ready for game action and has no date to return. No date for his return. Ranger Suarez will throw a 25-pitch bullpen on Saturday. He is on the IL with lower back stiffness. Nick Gonzalez left Thursday's game with left ankle soreness. That's because I traded for him in NL Labor, obviously. Giancarlo Stanton has resumed swinging a bat, but still has a ways to go before he returns. Clark Schmidt is expected to rejoin the Yankees rotation in the middle of April. Danny Jansen is expected to be in the lineup Friday. He's been dealing with a rib injury. Grant Holmes pitched an inning of relief. What was this about, Scott? Is he still expected to start on Monday, Grant Holmes?
So I couldn't find anything official from the team commenting on this usage. As best I could find and looking back through box scores, the last he pitched was March 16th. So they probably just wanted to get him some work and were finding some opportunity in this opening series to do it. Mm-hmm. As far as I know, he's still scheduled to start Monday's game against the Dodgers and lines up for 2 starts if you're treating the first full week as week 2.
Bunch of players who went on the IL, but ones that we weren't exactly sure of. Brandon Woodruff, it is official, goes in the IL, still working his way back from shoulder surgery. Liam Hendricks with right elbow inflammation. Vidal Brujan with a right elbow sprain, and Josh Rojas with a fracture in his right big toe. There was some interesting lineup stuff here, but I don't want to go through all of it just because there's so much other things to talk about. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you with lineups? Like Dylan Cruz batting 8th was a big one. You guys mentioned that. Andres Jimenez hitting cleanup, I thought was kind of interesting for the Blue Jays. Of course, he hit a home run.
Yeah, everybody's making fun of it, and he homered. Frank, how annoyed were the Yankees fans in your life that a guy named Vinny Capra homered against them? Because that is like the most Yankees fans would overrate this guy name for a baseball player of all time.
I didn't hear anything from the Yankee fans on Vinny Capra, but I didn't know much about him before the game, but looks like he's going to start against left-handed pitching.
Yeah. So. Alan Roden was in the lineup against a righty. He batted 9th. So that's one. Max Kepler was in the lineup against a lefty, MacKenzie Gore, though notably a lefty who often struggles against left-handed batters. So maybe they were loading up against lefties.
Schwarber batting cleanup, kind of interesting because we thought he was going to hit second.
Trey Turner leadoff now. So
yeah. Scanning through my notes here to see if I have any other lineup related things.
Cam Smith started, had a not great play on a pretty important batted ball hit to him, but overall wasn't a disaster in right field.
And he was lifted for a defensive replacement, as was Jason Dominguez in that game.
Brendan Rodgers got the start at second base for the Astros. I'd probably rather have Jorge Polanco, but that's another very deep second base option for you.
The Reds, Spencer Steer did start at DH. Gavin Lux was in left field.
And Lux hit cleanup. It was Steer batting 6th.
Yeah, I would think that'll happen against righties at least. Lux, not sure he's even going to play against lefties every day. Certainly will be lower in the lineup, I would guess.
All right, let's get into the rest of opening day and new team pitching debuts. Garrett Crochet was just okay at the Rangers. 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, did have 14 whiffs on 88 pitches. Blake Snell wasn't at his best in his Dodger debut against the Tigers. 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 walks to 2 strikeouts. but did have 14 whiffs on 92 pitches. Luis Severino, strong start against the Mariners, 6 shutout, 3 hits, 4 walks is high, but did have 6 strikeouts. And Clay Holmes, pretty wild here in his first start, 4 2/3, 3 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, only threw 60% of his pitches for strikes. Anything else to add on Holmes, Severino, Snell, and Crochet in their debuts?
Holmes is the one we have to talk about. Blake Snell was just in early season form, but Clay Holmes, though, the new pitches were not working in this one. He didn't seem like he could really command them and had to lean really, really heavily on the sinker and sweeper. As a result, I think he threw those 2 pitches like almost 80% of the time combined. Yeah. So he only threw 11 combined cutters, changeups, and 4 seams. Those are the 3 new pitches for him. He's got to pitch better. And I think maybe some of the helium in spring training, it certainly got to be too much for me. I ended up not drafting him in any later drafts. Any Clay Holmes I got was when he was going 200th or later. It wasn't what we wanted to see. Certainly, I'm not like saying it can't happen, but the proof of concept that we got in spring training did not show up in the first start. And granted, It's a tough matchup, but didn't look like what we thought or hoped he would.
What was weird, you said he wasn't commanding the new pitches. The main one I care about is the changeup, because the changeup was the one racking up whiffs in spring training. He threw only 4 of them. That was weird. And I think it's because there was just one left-handed batter in the lineup, Yordan Alvarez. And changeup is normally thought of as the pitch you use against opposing handed hitters. So I presume in future games, Holmes will face more lefties, get a chance to throw the changeup more, hopefully get more comfortable with it, maybe even start throwing it against some right-handers. I don't know. But that alone makes me give him an incomplete grade for this start. Like, I just need to see more. Yeah. To me, it's like, let him cook. It's a let him cook situation. He's trying something new. We have reason to believe he could be good at it. Didn't go well this first time. Let's just see more. Let's see more from Clay Holmes and not throw out the baby with the bathwater here.
All right, let's talk about the opening day blues. And Jose Barrios was part of this. And the other name I wanted to bring up, Michael King, who was just flat out bad against the Braves. He had nothing. 2 2/3 innings, 3 runs allowed, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts, only had 6 whiffs, only threw 54% of his pitches for strikes. Velocity looked fine, but he really just had nothing. I will remind people, he walked 7 in his first start last year and got off to a pretty bad start. So don't think we should freak out just yet on Michael King.
Yep, everything you said.
First 7 starts last year, 5.3 walks per 9, 2.7 walks per 9, cut it in half the rest of the way.
Yep, the way he turned his season around should give him a lot of benefit of the doubt.
All right, whip it bad, because these are guys that were really bad at whip last year.
Okay.
and they were bad at whipping their first starts here as well. Zach Gallen and Logan Webb. So Gallen against the Cubs, 4 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. And then Logan Webb, 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. And where is the changeup? It was his 4th most used pitch in the start, and it was bad again. He only had 1 whiff with it, gave up a lot of hard contact, 11% CSW on the pitch. And, 2 years ago, this was Logan Webb's best pitch, his bread and butter. And he lost it last year, and at least in this first start, he didn't have it again. So,
yeah. And the cutter didn't look as strong as it did in spring training either. That was the new pitch for Webb. And yeah, I mean, look, he'll probably be some manner of good this year because he was last year without the changeup or the cutter. It's just a question of how good. I would have liked for it to be a better debut, but it's too early to draw any real conclusions from it.
Yep, I agree with that. It's Gallen. I don't know if you guys watched this one, but he looked fine in the first inning. Ran into a lot of trouble in the second, really labored, seemed to lose his command. Came out in the third, and his velocity dropped like a stone. Like it was down like 3 miles per hour in the third inning. He went from sitting like 94, 95 to 91, 92, and it didn't really get all the way back. So that was certainly not what I wanted to see as a believer in Zach Allen this year. So yeah, not a great start. It's only one start. I'm not going to give up on him. He has a long track record, but it was certainly not the outcome or the process that I was hoping for from Zach Allen his first start.
Let's get into the rest of the pitching leftovers. Ace is gonna ace. Zach Wheeler, Logan Gilbert, Framber Valdez all had awesome starts. Is there anything talk-worthy for those three pitchers?
Yes, I will do Valdez because I think Chris probably wants to do Logan Gilbert. So for Valdez, I will say he threw his curveball 34% of the time, and it had 9 of his 12 whiffs. That 34% is about what he was doing late in the year when we saw his strikeout rate spike. So he's carried it over into this year. Just a reminder, last year, Framber Valdez, 7.1 K per 9 through his first 15 starts. Then once he started throwing that curveball about 35%, 10.3 K per 9 over his final 13 starts. Good sign for Valdez.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good, was super efficient, looked like the very, very good version of Framber Valdez that we're typically looking for. I will talk a little very quickly about Logan Gilbert. Just his splitter looked really, really good in this one, and it looked good in some really interesting ways. It's a really, really low spin pitch. Kind of has some of that Roki Sasaki stuff that we've been talking a lot about, that funk where sometimes it moves like a slider, sometimes it moves like a more traditional splitter. Logan Gilbert's awesome. He's really, really good. It makes the 435-foot home run that Tyler Soderstrom hit off of him even more impressive, because I think that was the only... Is that the only hit he gave up? No, he gave up 2 hits, 8 strikeouts. Logan Gilbert...
The point stands.
If he gets any run support, he might mess around and win the Cy Young. He's awesome.
Brent Rooker struck out 4 times.
When Logan Gilbert left the start, he was actually down 1-0.
Yep, absolutely.
I just started thinking, well, here we go again. Mariners can't score for Logan Gilbert.
I'll just say really quickly, Zach Wheeler threw his splitter 11% of the time, which he also did last April, and it looked like a great pitch for him. And then he kind of abandoned it thereafter. So it's nice to see Wheeler mixing in that splitter again.
These pitchers were pretty good. Paul Skeens, Nathan Eovaldi, Hunter Green, and Carlos Rodon. Anything on those 4 that you want to bring up? Skeens, Eovaldi, Green, Rodon.
Rodon, let me get to my notes. The changeup was very, very good for him. He only threw 2 of his 18 changeups in the strike zone. He bounced a couple of them. So it didn't seem like the command was great, except he generated 10 swings on 18 pitches. 3 of them were whiffs, 4 were foul balls, and 3 were balls in play with a 65.5 mile per hour average exit velocity. That's super fun. Fastball got hit really hard. I don't think there's any hope of that fastball getting back to what it used to be.
But he moved away from it. Carlos Rodon threw the fastball even less in this start.
Yep, only threw the 4-seamer 26% of the time, mixed in 10 sinkers, which is not something he does very often. Only threw 1 cutter. Keep the cutter away. We don't want that. So all in all, I thought it was a very good start for Carlos Rodon. And the other guy I wanted to talk about is in the next group of pitchers. So we'll move on.
On Hunter Green, his fastball, he threw it 70% of the time. It got 10 of his 15 whiffs. It was up 1.6 miles per hour, which we also saw from Hunter Green in spring training. And like with MacKenzie Gore, I think a lot of the calculus here is just how good is his control. And in this start, Hunter Green threw 70% of his pitches for strikes. I do think he throws so hard, adding an extra 1.5 miles per hour of fastball velocity introduces new injury risk, and he hasn't been the healthiest to begin with. So there will come, if this continues for another start or two, a time to sell high on Hunter Green, probably. But off to a good start.
Just wanted to mention real quick with Nathan Eovaldi, awesome start here. 6 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts to 0 walks, 17 whiffs on 87 pitches against the Red Sox. His curveball was awesome, and he nearly doubled the curveball usage. 10 of his 17 whiffs came on the curveball here. Again, that was Nathan Eovaldi. Pitchers who were pretty good, part 2, Freddie Peralta, Zach Eflin, and Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, who, the velocity is still down a little bit, but it was up from where it was in the spring. And again, he looked okay in this start. Chris, you said there was a pitcher you wanted to talk about here.
Yeah, Freddie Peralta, who gave up a couple of, Yankee Stadium home runs. One of them, we can no longer say only a home run in Yankee Stadium because George M. Steinbrenner Field has the exact same dimensions.
Though StatCast said it would have only been a home run in one of 30 parks. I wondered about that too.
Yeah, I don't know if they were including Steinbrenner since they haven't actually played a game there. I would guess not. But the 2 short home runs were the only damage against him. I thought he looked really good. The 4-seamer got a bunch of whiffs. And that was something that I noted this spring. He had a mechanical flaw last season that caused him to lose the ability to throw his 4-seamer effectively to right-handed batters. He had to move to the first base side of the mound to counteract that. And he's discovered what the flaw was this offseason, back to the third base side of the mound, and looked very good. I thought it was a strong start. So very, very happy with Freddie Peralta right now.
We should probably talk about Sonny Gray, right? Did you read off his stats already?
No, 5 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, 12 whiffs on 77 pitches here.
Yeah, so his fastball was down a mile per hour and a half, a mile and a half per hour, however you want to say it. It was down, but it wasn't like down in major red flag kind of way. And he was really effective. He missed a lot of bats. He limited damage.
He did give up a lot of hard contact is the one thing that stood out.
Yeah, but that's not so abnormal for him, right?
No, that kind of feels like the Sonny Gray experience.
Right. He basically looked like Sonny Gray just missing a mile per hour velocity on the fastball, which he could still gain back. And yeah, I think maybe if you drafted him, you should be feeling pretty good today because particularly if you did it late, people were kind of backing away from him. I think it was a really encouraging debut here for Sonny Gray.
Aces who were just okay, Cole Reagans and Chris Sale. Any notes on those 2?
I didn't see anything notable on Cole Reagans. His pitch usage was kind of weird. He went more 4-seam and cutter heavy. Didn't lean on the changeup as much. I wonder if they had mostly righties in the lineup. So I'm not sure. I guess the cutter can be a righty pitch. I don't know. I don't notice anything there. His stuff looked fine. I don't think there's anything to worry about with Cole Reagans.
And I don't notice anything for Chris Sale either. I think it was just whatever. One of his less than dominant starts.
I think I know the answer to this question, but do we just bench all pitchers against the Dodgers? Because Tarek Skubal, 5 innings, 4 runs, 2 strikeouts as the number 1 starting pitcher in fantasy this year, or number 2, and whatever, consensus top 2 pitcher. Not great against the Dodgers.
I think the Dodgers will just do this sometimes, but I'm not going to say bench everyone against them, but bench most people against them. Sure. Yeah.
Like
probably don't bench Skubal against them.
Today,
if he faces
for example, them again. I am benching Jack Flaherty against them. Like I
think that's fine.
That's reasonable. It depends what your alternatives are too, but I benching Flaherty in a league to get somebody like, I may have been like Chris Bassett in the lineup, which I don't know. I may regret after the way the Orioles lineup looked on opening day. We'll see.
Some other hitting standouts I wanted to mention. Jackson Chourio 0 for 5 with a platinum sombrero. He stinks. You can drop him. So don't need to talk about Jackson Chourio. Please don't do that. But I think there was a comment. I hope he was kidding. There was a comment in the YouTube chat before we started that said, I just dropped Jackson Chourio in my head-to-head points league. I hope it was a joke.
It had to have been a joke. There is one person who's like complaining that everybody's telling him not to be worried about Jackson Chourio. And honestly,
come on.
It's one start. It's one game. If you are worried about Jackson Chourio, if your opinion about him has changed at all, you are playing the wrong game.
I think he struck out more times today than he did all of spring training.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He hit like 470 in spring.
Yeah.
That is a great reminder.
7 times this spring. Sorry, go ahead, Frank.
That this is a really, really long season. And if you are playing fantasy baseball, you have to be in it for the long haul. There's going to be ups and downs with any player. It does not matter who they are. And Jackson Trio could have a completely terrible entire first month. And then from May 1st on, he can be a top 5 player in fantasy.
Jackson Churio could have a 600 OPS with a 30% strikeout rate on May 1st.
Yeah.
And I promise you, I will not move him down in my rankings.
This is just part
Is that what he did last year?
It's probably not far off.
The numbers?
No. I don't think he was a top 5 player, but he was like awesome from June 1st on last season. So we'll see.
My 7-year-old was crestfallen that the Braves lost their season opener today. It's just like you picked the wrong sport to be interested in.
Well,
if you're gonna hang this much on every game.
That is what I love about baseball, because like the Marlins won a game that will be one of about 52 games that they win all season, and I had a blast.
It was a fun game.
Yeah, if they had lost, you know what? There's a game tomorrow.
Yeah,
the beautiful thing about baseball.
Couple other hitting standouts here. No hamstring, no problem for Vinny P.
Baby.
In the lineup, batting third, 2 for 4 with a 3-run home run, and then a double, which came off of Emmanuel Clase. Oblique looked pretty good for Christian Walker, only 1 for 4, but he had 3 hard hit balls, 111 miles per hour off the bat. So he looked pretty good there. Tommy Edman loves left-handed pitching, 1 for 4 with a home run off of Tarek Skubal. And Shohei Ohtani is not human. 2 for 4 with his second home run already. Like, whatever. He's awesome. Nothing else to say about Ohtani. A couple other bullpen items I wanted to mention. Elite closers who were not so elite. Devin Williams, Emmanuel Clase, Josh Hader. All a little bit shaky here on opening day, which just kind of contributed to the theme of bullpen madness for the day. I don't think we're concerned about any of them, right? But anything to add on Williams, Clase, or Hader?
I mentioned that Cam Smith kind of misplayed a ball out in right field. I don't think it was an error, but I think that was during the 9th, and it led to a runner getting to second, if I'm remembering correctly. So that
they had a defensive replacement come in for him.
Okay, maybe it was earlier then. Yeah, that would make sense. But I didn't see any reason at all to be concerned about Williams, Clase, or Hader. They have very long track records, and it's one appearance out of about 70 you're going to get from them this season. So no concerns.
For the Giants, Ryan Walker got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He gave up 1 run on 1 hit. He picked up the save. Robert Suarez for the Padres, he got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He walked 1, but struck out 2 for his first save. For the White Sox, Mike Clevenger entered in the 8th inning with runners on 1st and 3rd, a 3-run lead facing Mike Trout. So very high leverage situation there. He walked Trout and then struck out Jorge Soler. The White Sox went on to score 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning. So Clevenger was no longer needed for the save. For the Cardinals, Ryan Helsley struck out 3, gave up a hit, picked up the save there. For the Mariners, Andres Munoz entered with a 2-run lead. He walked 1, but picked up the save as well. Anything else on bullpens you wanted to mention?
So Suarez, 4 of his 24 pitches were not picked up by StatCast, so we can't say with certainty, but his velocity seemed fine. Sinkers that were tracked were right on last year's average. 4-seamers were down 0.5 mile per hour, but it was 2, so I don't think there's anything there.
He looked good. I was at the start of the pod, I was regretting. I was expressing my regret, lamenting, that's the word, to Chris and Frank, that in my last draft of the season, just this morning, took Jordan Romano over Robert Suarez. Even though I ranked Suarez ahead, it was a bad decision.
You know, I ended up drafting Robert Suarez in like 2 of my final 3 drafts, I think, and maybe it'll work out because he just kept falling.
I think I only have him in the league we all share, and I was the one defending him the whole time.
And I was so upset that we got him, but it could turn out to be a good pick.
I think I ended up getting him for like $3 in my league.
It's about that time. You know what time it is? It's about the time for To Stream or Not to Stream, which is Scott White's favorite segment that we are going to wrap up every single show with this season. And I know what you're going to say, Scott. How can people be streaming on opening weekend? I'm sure there's someone out there who wants to stream pitchers already. So that is where we will wrap up.
I feel like we're enabling people who are too proactive with their lineups, because you should probably just start the good pitchers you drafted. But fine, let's do this.
I agree with you. And we will end each show with potential pitching streamers. For those who play in daily lineup leagues, we'll talk about the day of and the next day as well. For this one, we'll do the entire weekend because obviously we're heading into a 3-day weekend. On Friday, there are not many great options. Jeffrey Springs at the Mariners was the one that stood out most to me.
I think he's very usable. Jack Leiter is a total, I want to watch it. I don't want to rely on it, though.
I don't start him against the Red Sox.
No, I agree with that, but I will be tuning in.
I agree.
Of the ones you listed here, Jameson Taillon at Arizona is the one I'd most likely start if I was just looking to go crazy with volume, because I feel like he's the least likely to destroy you.
Yeah, I mean, Morton's probably going to be bad for your whip, but you could get 6 or 7 strikeouts and a win out of him.
On Saturday, the 3 that stood out to me: Jose Soriano at the White Sox, Zach Littell facing the Rockies in Tampa Bay, and Osvaldo Bido at the Mariners. Is there anybody else that stands out?
Griffin Canning's one to watch. You know, he started spamming that really good slider this spring, and we'll see what it looks like. But I would not start him at Houston. No way.
I'm going to say Jose Soriano at the White Sox is the best play of the weekend here as far as streamers go, even though they handled Yusei Kikuchi today pretty well. Wouldn't count on it happening too often.
I wouldn't actually start this player, but it wouldn't surprise me if Bailey Falter at the Marlins had a good start. But you know, it's Bailey Falter.
The thing about the Marlins, there's a lot of strikeouts in that lineup, and so they're going to be feast and mostly famine, I think.
And then on Sunday, I have 5 names that I think are decent here. Tomoyuki Sugano at the Blue Jays, Nick Martinez facing the Giants, Max Meyer facing the Pirates, Andrew Heaney on the other side at the Marlins, and JP Sears at the Mariners.
Of all the pitchers we've talked about in this segment, the only ones I think I actually drafted are here. They're Tomoyuki Sugano and Nick Martinez. So I'd be fine with either one of them. It's not the greatest matchups, Toronto for Sugano and San Francisco for Martinez, but they're not terrible matchups either.
I would prefer to avoid those 2. Max Meyer is another will be watching. Don't want to start him. I will say the same thing about Richard Fitz at Texas and AJ Smith-Shawver at San Diego. I will be watching. Prefer not to start.
All right, we are going to wrap there. Opening day is in the books. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.